News! Okay, we'll start with this Friday on the undercard of Jake Paul's next fight on DAZN. The long-awaited, long-anticipated super middleweight contest between Franchon Crews, the former champion, and Crews-Dezurn, the challenger, for what is the newly vacated WBC title at 168 pounds.
Let's get ready to rumble!
The contrasting styles, the poised, controlled, counterpunching style of Crews-Dezurn versus the frenzied pressure fighting of Franchon Crews. Who's going to win a fight? Those of you that have been following this channel will already know that I'm leaning towards Crews-Dezurn to become this division's newly crowned WBC champion. Here's why. She's not the kind of fighter you want to go getting froggy with. She's not the kind of fighter you want to stand right in front of, opening up, letting your hands go, and that's what Franchon Crews does. That's Franchon's bread and butter. Pressure fighting. Overwhelming the opponent with volume, with combinations. And usually that works for her, but I don't think it's going to work this Friday. Makes things really interesting is that Franchon Crews comparatively has fought better fighters than Crews-Dezurn has fought. She debuted against Clarissa Shields. She's fought Jimenez, she's fought Cornejo, she's fought Marshall, she fought Aline Cederroos. That's a common opponent between them, with the difference being that while Franchon definitely beat the crap out of Aline Cederroos, Crews-Dezurn knocked her out. And it's not so much that she knocked her out so much as how she knocked her out, why she knocked her out, what led up to the knockout. And what led up to the knockout is that Aline Cederroos, that's a big girl, she's a big target, she was trying to put the squeeze on Crews-Dezurn. She was trying to walk her down, stand in front of her, letting punches go, and I told you, this is not the fighter you want to do that with. Crews-Dezurn is a very talented, sharp, and strong counterpuncher. Open up on it too much and she's gonna make you pay for it. She's that, according to Hoyle, boxer puncher, counterpuncher, that perhaps doesn't throw as many punches in a round as a Franchon Crews, but what punches she does throw, she makes them count. It's a quality over quantity kind of deal, whereas Franchon, Crews-Dezurn, is more of a sniper, whereas Franchon, she's more of a Gatling gun. Stepping into her punches and putting together combinations, what's gonna make this a contest is whether or not Crews-Dezurn can manage the distance and create space so that Franchon doesn't smother her, doesn't overwhelm her. She's gotta beat those feet, she's gotta move to create a bit of distance to get the counters off. If she doesn't, Franchon's gonna overwhelm her. She doesn't move, and it's not moving to where you're all the way on the outside. We often talk about how Devin Haney takes a half step back so that as an opponent is advancing forward, he can set them up for a counter. That's what Crews-Dezurn's got to do. You don't want to get all the way out of range. You want to take a half step back. It's how you manage a distance as opposed to retreating, as opposed to just giving up ground to an advancing opponent. If you do that too much, it's going to start looking like they're bullying you around, moving you around the ring because you can't hold the center. But I feel like Crews-Dezurn can deal. I feel like Crews-Dezurn can manage. Punch for punch, I'd say that Crews-Dezurn is a bigger puncher than Franchon Crews. She just doesn't throw as many punches as Franchon Crews. They're both strong. And Franchon is plenty durable. She's been in there with some hitters, some real hard hitters. She's been in there with Alejandra Jimenez, Savannah Marshall, Aline Cederroos. She's never been knocked out. Can Crews-Dezurn do it? I think that she can. So long as she's mindful of her distance and spacing, where she is relative to where Franchon is, and that Franchon Crews is gonna come busting through that front door. If she can time the counter, I think she can take her out. She's gotta move her feet, create a bit of space, and don't let Franchon's activity fluster her. I'm going with Crews-Dezurn to win. I'm going with Crews-Dezurn to become the newly crowned WBC super middleweight champion, which would in effect set up a fight between her and Savannah Marshall, possibly next year, for all the marbles, all the belts. Just keep thinking that with Franchon's forward momentum, always barreling forward, if Crews-Dezurn can meet her with a counter, giving her power, she can take her out. Crews-Dezurn's explosive. The forward momentum of Crews in tandem with the hard counters and explosive power of Crews-Dezurn may result in a knockout. This is a fight that has all the makings of a barn burner, a firefight. And as stated, the caveat for Crews-Dezurn is to not let Franchon's aggressiveness and activity fluster her. She's got to stay poised. She's got to create space to set up the counter. I think she can do it. I'm going with Crews-Dezurn to become WBC champion this weekend. We'll see if the prediction sticks this Friday on DAZN. In men's super lightweight news, Devin Haney says, I should be fighter of the year. My dad deserves trainer of the year. And I think if you ask around, what you'll find is that the fighter of this year is really between Terrence Crawford and his performance against Errol Spence Jr., their long-awaited fight, and Naoya Inoue, if he takes care of business later on this month. In any event, the 25-year-old Haney stated his case and also lobbied for his father, Bill Haney, to win Trainer of the Year awards during his post-fight press conference. Bill Haney also works with the promising prospects, including Amari Jones, who knocked out Gilisto Madera.
So we're gonna act like the outcome in the Lomachenko fight wasn't controversial.
I feel like I'm, at this point, that I should be fighter of the year, Devin Haney said. But also, not only that, they don't want to give my dad credit, but I think my dad deserves credit. Trainer of the year, When they mention the best trainers in boxing, I don't understand because they never mention my dad.
If Devin keeps looking how he's looking as he moves up in weight, he'll definitely have a point. But right now, some performances really were better than others. His performance against Prograis was a lot better than his performance against Lomachenko and Linares.
It's a mixed bag because he looked good with Kambosos, he looked sensational with Prograis, but he doesn't always look like that.
He feels that he should be fighter of the year and his father should be trainer of the year.
But he is the best trainer in boxing, and it showed. We just went in there, went up in weight, fought arguably the best 140, and pitched a shutout. Didn't even get hit with nothing, handicapped him. Come on now. My dad deserves trainer of the year, and I deserve fighter of the year, and that was a career best performance from Devin Haney. It really was. His boxing was on point, and even his power to some degree, because he knocked Regis Prograis down and hurt him at least 3 or 4 times by my count, though I don't think that's enough to surpass what we got from Terrence in the Spence fight. And once again, if he knew he does in his next fight to Marlon Tapales what he did to Stephen Fulton earlier this year,
if he becomes undisputed again, I'd give it to him. I'd give it to Inoue.
Throw credit to Devin for putting on a career-best performance. He looked sensational. He said he didn't want to get too greedy by pushing for a knockout against Regis Prograis, even though he could have, even though we saw him hurt Regis several times throughout the course of the match. He didn't go for the gusto. He didn't go for the kill. The year mark of the pure boxer is they've got a safety-first mentality.
They're defensively minded. They don't throw caution to the wind.
Even when they want to. I wanted to fight, Haney said. I knew that I could hurt him, and I knew that I was hurting him, but every round I went back to the corner. My dad would say, just stay focused. Stay sticking to the game plan. You're beating him easy. Keep breaking him down. And that's what I was doing, and it comes with experience. Quite right. Poise and control, and sticking to the game plan is a sign of maturation in a fighter.
Being defensively minded is the telltale sign of a pure boxer, that even if he can hurt the guy and he knows that he can,
not gonna go all willy-nilly taking chances that he don't need to take. That in and of itself is what separates good pure boxers from elite pure boxers. I remember Tony Harrison in the second Jermell Charlo fight. For me, he was winning that fight.
He was having a lot of success, but he got carried away and he got caught.
Something similar happened to Devin in the Jorge Linares fight. In the Linares fight, I was breaking him down. He was going down fast, but I got too greedy, and that's when I got hit with a shot that I shouldn't have gotten hit with. So in this fight, with the experience, we just stuck to the game plan. And if the knockout was to come, then it was to come. But we didn't want to get too greedy. And that's what makes pure boxers so difficult for boxer punches, counter punches like Regis Prograis, like Teofimo Lopez, like Gervonta Davis, that pure boxer, they're not going to get greedy, i.e., they're not going to engage. They're not going to string together 3 and 4 punches so that you can catch them in between. It's 1 and 2 shots at a time from a safe distance, on the balls of their feet, managing the distance.
Not getting overzealous, not getting greedy.
Poise can be a pure boxer's best friend. Being patient, being poised, being controlled.
Now Ryan is saying he wants to fight him.
Ryan called out Devin Haney after his finest performance against Regis Prograis, and he promised that they will fight next year.
I don't know if they'll fight on that schedule. It's not that I think they won't fight or they'll never fight, but I don't know if it'll be next year. Ryan's at 140 and Devin's talking about going up to 147.
In any case, in a series of comments posted on his social media, Garcia stressed that he and Haney will fight sometime next year. This was Devin at his finest, but his finest is something that can put people to sleep. That is watching. Garcia wrote, on Twitter. I know what he's missing. He can have it one day, but he don't have it right now. Make your assumptions. I can't wait to get it active with him. Haney is good, no doubt, but I know him all too well, and I will beat him, Garcia wrote in another post. Good stuff tonight, congrats, but this year, we are going to run it. Ryan Garcia's style may be somewhat more appealing to the eye, but it's for the wrong reasons. It's because he's a lot more flawed and less controlled than Devin. I mean, look at how he looked experimenting with a shoulder roll. In the Duarte fight, he was doing it all wrong. What's exciting is that this kid might get himself knocked out.
Sometimes what's exciting about a fighter is how flawed they are, how limited they are. Think Chris Billam-Smith. Think Jaime Munguia, Alan Babic.
Ryan Garcia. Ryan, who said, Haney is good, no doubt, but I know him all too well and I will beat him, Garcia wrote in another post. Good stuff tonight, congrats. But this year we are going to run it. One thing is certain, in my eyes, is that Haney and I will fight next year, Garcia continued. You can hold me to it unless it's not in God's will.
Garcia's promoter Oscar De La Hoya of Golden Boy echoed his client's sentiments in a post on X. You know, Devin Haney is a network and promotional free agent. He can do business with anybody, Golden Boy included.
But Ryan is still experimenting with a new trainer and a new style. It's very hard to say how a fight between Ryan and Devin breaks down stylistically because Devin's settled into who he is as a fighter, whereas Ryan, it's hard to classify him. I mean, what is he, a boxer puncher?
Something like that. I'm gonna push for Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. Let's go, De La Hoya wrote.
And I don't doubt that one day it could happen, but I don't know if it happens next year. Ryan has a lot of things he needs to work on. A lot of things he needs to work out. I could see it happening at 147, at welterweight. That is where Devin is going.
What about the Matias fight?
I don't think he's fighting Subriel Matias, personally. Subriel's holding substantive talks to fight Teofimo next year.
We talked about that in my previous video. Devin looks to be heading to welterweight.
That's what they were saying before the Regis Prograis fight, and that's what they're still saying now. That Devin is considering a move up to the welterweight division for his very next fight. And ahead of this past weekend's fight, they were courting the idea of fighting Keith Thurman, courting the idea of fighting Mario Barrios. I feel like, in all likelihood, he's going to go up there, he's going to fight somebody. I want to talk to my dad and see what's next, Haney said during his post-fight press conference. But, you know, I want to do a fight at 147, but it's a lot of big fights at 140. But I'm into, you know, making the biggest, you know, best fights happen in the sport of boxing. That's where I'm in it right now, you know. I became undisputed at 135, and, you know, I made history, you know. I'm in the history books forever, but now, you know, I want to make the biggest fights happen for, you know, the most money, to be honest.
The trial for Devin is that if he goes up to welterweight, you know, in spite of having great physical dimensions for a lightweight and a super lightweight, at welterweight, the guys are going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, a little bit stronger.
Devin's physical dimensions for a lightweight and a super lightweight were always generous, and in all likelihood, the reason that he now wants to go to welterweight is because his body is urging him to do it. Devin's got a big frame, and he's still young. He's only getting bigger. I remember ahead of this past weekend's fight, he said that 140 isn't going to be easy to make, so now he wants to move to welter.
I don't know, Devin Haney said, you know, I want to talk with my dad. My dad, you know, been looking at the 147-pound landscape, so you would have to ask him.
Devin is remarkable, man, Bill Haney said. He's truly special, and take nothing away from the guys at 135, 140, and 147, but when we talk about them, they're good. But Devin is special, and I think he showed that tonight, his ability to handicap a fighter. And will he be able to handicap fighters at 147 that, I reiterate, are bigger, taller, longer, and stronger than some of the guys at 140? Devin Haney's distance control really has been something at lightweight and super lightweight, but the guys are going to be a little bit bigger at welter.
Are you going to be able to manage the distance at 147 the same way you just did at 140? Throwing only 1 and 2 punches at a time, taking that half step back.
Some of those guys up there are going to have physical dimensions akin to Devin's. You know, he was big for lightweight, and he had good size for a super lightweight, but at welter, there's going to be guys there just as big as Devin, if not bigger.
You have a height advantage and a reach advantage over most other fighters in your division. It is a bit easier to keep them at arm's length. Now, Devin has very good timing and very good boxing acumen, but his physical dimensions really do lend themselves to his base style.
Now what happens if a guy's a little taller than he is and a little longer or just as long as he is? How does Devin Haney manage then? Well, that's where timing comes into it. Timing and ring IQ.
What you throw and when you throw it. Think Alexander Usyk in the Anthony Joshua fight.
What you throw, when you throw, and where do you throw. That can help to circumvent a fighter's size, a bigger fighter's physical dimensions. That might give us some insight into how Devin Haney will manage at welterweight, which would be his third division, his third weight class, and he wouldn't be that big up there.
Timing.
I don't know how long he's going to be WBC champion at 140 pounds because rumor has it that Sandor Martin is in the queue and Sandor Martin will be his mandatory challenger. Stylistically, a fight between Devin Haney and Sandor Martin, I mean, talk about a snooze fest. Two pure boxers?
No Gracias.
Let's face it, a Sandor Martin fight doesn't have the same profile as a Thurman fight at welterweight or a Barrios fight at welterweight. Those fights comparatively would have more of a profile than a Sandor Martin fight as Devin's first defense of his newly obtained WBC title. So once again, I don't know how long he's going to have that belt.
Next time we see him, he might be a welter. He's eyeing guys that normally box on the PBC side of things, but the PBC don't have as many fight dates as they used to.
Because he's a network and promotional free agent, it's entirely possible that he crosses over to their side of things, but because they don't have that many fight dates to go around, it's also entirely possible that one or some of those guys might cross over for him, cross over to Matchroom and DAZN for a Devin Haney fight.
Do you think they'd bill a Haney versus Barrios fight as a pay-per-view?
On the DAZN side of things, I would hope not. That's a decent fight, a decent maiden voyage into the welterweight division. Barrios has been in there with a lot of guys, but that's not the kind of fight you should have to pay $80 to see. So I would hope not on the DAZN side of things, but on the PBC Amazon side of things, yeah, they might.
Practically everything the PBC puts on is behind a paywall now.
So it wouldn't surprise me. We'll see who Devin ends up fighting in his very next fight next year.